What's up, everybody? Van here. Got an exciting update for the Corvette. The C06 is going to Lonestar Horsepower today. We have a kind of a mid-level, well, entry-level, I guess, naturally aspirated build gonna happen. We're gonna redo the heads, leave the factory heads, just redo them because, you know, the LS7 thing, and then headers, exhaust, cam, obviously a tune, and some other things. So looking forward to it. It's still going to look pretty stockish because we are keeping the factory mufflers and factory intake on the engine. So here we go. I'm going to get ready. Exciting. What's up, everybody? We just got our Z06 back from Lonestar Horsepower. So excited. I've driven it just a couple of times after picking it up, trying to put some miles on it to break it in, and then we got to go do another service, oil change and stuff, and then hoping to let her rip. So it is still very stockish. There's nothing real out of the ordinary cosmetically from the exterior. Under the hood, the only real obvious first thing you'll see is the intake is not factory. It looks very similar to factory, but it says Haltech, so it's obviously not. And then sharp eye would notice the headers down there too. But the intake, manifold, the valve covers, which are covered up, but the engine covers are all factory looking, or are all factory. The throttle body is factory. Everything else under here is very factory. There is a catch can now, right there. That is a catch can that we just check every time we do an oil change. And the plug wires are red, as you can see there now. But again, this is not like some giant monster sticking out of the hood. You know, it's still very factory looking. From the exterior, there is nothing that that looks like it's not very factory. So even the factory exhaust system is still intact. Kept that because, so we kept everything that's axle back, I think. It might be cat back is still factory, because this C06 exhaust system is pretty well done already, but the mufflers and tips have the NPP. It's basically the valves. That's why two tips are darker than the others, because it opens up the valves for either quiet or loud. So what we had done, this is Lonestar Horsepower's. This is their stage 2, I guess, is what they call it, for the C06 with the LS7 engine. The main thing is we had to go internal on the engine because the LS7 has a common known manufacturing flaw. The heads and the valves, over some miles and some RPM, will develop a problem, which could lead to a valve drop, which means you trash a motor. So we caught that before it ever had a problem. I don't think the problem was very severe on this particular Corvette. It's been well taken care of, and I don't think it's been beat on. And I had a 2015 Camaro Z28 with the same engine, and I never noticed any issues with that one. And it had, I think, 25,000 miles, maybe almost 30,000 miles, something like that. So I don't think the problem is as bad as everybody talks about it is. But that being said, I didn't want to build this motor and not get that fixed. So the heads had to come off. which means in a C6 Corvette, or pretty much any Corvette, the motor has to come out. So since they had the motor out, we went ahead and put a cam in it. It has the BTR Stage 3 cam, which they have different versions of that. So the second version, so I have the BTR naturally aspirated Stage 3 V2 cam, and along with that is new valves, valve work, valve springs, and retainers, and roller rockers, and BTR push rods, and quite a few other things in the valve train to support a bigger cam, and so on and so forth. It is the stock bottom end, and as I've already mentioned, the stock intake and throttle body. I was gonna do the aftermarket intake, manifold, and throttle body, but chose not to because those were mods that I could bolt on myself later, and it was gonna cost me some drivability, and I really wanted to feel it before I got into that point. The thing about building a naturally aspirated engine is it basically means bigger cam, more top end, more high revving power, which in turn means it's harder to street drive, or it takes away some of your low to mid-range power in most cases to build real higher horsepower on the top end. So I wanted to feel it as it is here before I got to that point. And if I did want more top end, I could add those mods myself later. As you can tell, the cold air intake is necked down. So this cold air intake would match the aftermarket throttle body if I ever decided to go that route. And then same thing with the cat back or axle back exhaust, that's something I could easily bolt on myself. If I ever did those mods later, I would just need to take it back to Lonestar and have them retune it. What else? A dampener, a harmonic balancer. You know, it's basically the crankshaft pulley. They put that in too because that is also kind of a C6 problem, I guess. I don't know exactly what happens if it just gets out of balance and causes a bunch of vibration, or if it like comes apart and throws the belt off, or what the deal is. But there's some problem with that. Seals, bearings, stuff like that while they're in there. Apparently to drop the motor in this thing, you have to take out like the power steering, like this whole front subframe drops out of the bottom of the car. And alignment has to be redone, all kinds of stuff if you go to that point. So I'm glad I didn't do it. That's why I didn't want to do it with my own two hands. I'm happy to do bolt-ons myself, but I'm not going to drop the engine, especially not with no experience. I've never done that on a Corvette, and this is a car I care about, and I want to make sure it's done right. And I don't want to mess it up. All that being said, let's get to the part that you really want. Let's hear that chop. I'll say after driving this thing a little bit, the cam is more aggressive than I expected. It has quite a bit of chop to it. The bottom end, like parking lot driving, is something you got to be aware of. It'll surge, like it'll vroom vroom vroom. It'll jump on you a little bit if you're not careful. You got to keep it smooth. All that being said, when this thing's in the power band, kind of the mid upper rev range of the engine, oh man, it really sings and it feels so good. It's so happy in that range. So here we go.